Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. It is time for your ice advice entering this weekend. Down the stretch run of this NHL regular season, Pete Jensen of the NHL joins us here on this Friday for the next two segments. We approach trade deadline week around the National Hockey League, all the narratives that you need to know. We put a pin in those Stanley Cup odds and where things stand. And of course, Pete, we talked the hunt for history for Alex Ovechkin, trying to chase down the great one and score the most goals we have ever seen in an NHL career. When that might happen for Ovechkin this regular season. Pete Jensen, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks for being here on this Friday.
Of course, guys. We just keep the momentum rolling here right after the Four Nations. Yeah, I mean, that was an incredible tournament. And, of course, congrats to Canada on the victory in overtime. It did go to overtime, so that was exciting. We nailed that pick. But, yeah, I think that when you look ahead to Ovechkin, he's probably going to break this record this season. It's become kind of a foregone conclusion. He needs 12 goals to break it in the final 23 games. And with his recent shot volume, which has been 5 straight games with at least 4 shots on goal, I mean, it's only a matter of time here before this thing's coming down.
So let's dive into this chase for greatness, Pete, just a little bit more. As you mentioned, 4 shots last night in a disappointing Capitals loss to the St. Louis Blues. No goals for Alex Ovechkin, but he did return from the Four Nations with a hat trick, or the Four Nations break around the NHL with a hat trick. He has been scoring a ton of goals with a high volume as of late this season, as you saw. 43 games played, 30 goals, 17 assists, 883 career goals. He now needs only 12 to score goal number 895, which would be the all-time goal-scoring record in a career in the history of the National Hockey League. Pete, there was a time when this question was not when, but if he is a minus 168 favorite Ovechkin to score goal number 895 throughout at a point in this regular season. When exactly are we looking at this timeline here for Ovechkin?
I mean, realistically, probably sometime in April. I know he's got 2 games against the Islanders. He's got a couple of games coming up on the horizon against the California teams like San Jose, Anaheim. It's going to be interesting to see. He's always a threat for a hat trick, as we've seen, especially with those empty net goals at the end. I know that you can kind of look at whether it's going to be a regular goal or an empty net goal. I know that you can kind of look at Ovechkin on the live line and track him in the third period and maybe get better odds than what he's currently at for an anytime goal, which obviously is getting close to even money on a game-to-game basis because he is just a machine out there. And it's crazy to think about when you date back to December when he broke his leg and we were like, is he even going to play again this season? You know, he's 39 years old, not so fast. He came back earlier than expected. You look at his shot speed this season among forwards, 99th percentile in top shot speed, 97th percentile in average shot speed. So this guy is not slowing down one bit. It's been incredible to watch.
It is incredible to watch because when you think about it, sometimes like, okay, a guy's going for a goal record, but maybe we're a middling hockey team. We're just going to set him up repeatedly and give him as many chances as he gets because that's what's most important. But the Capitals second in the NHL in overall points at 84, only behind the Winnipeg Jets. So if I gave you those 2 teams right here and those 2 teams only to win the President's Cup, who are you taking? Is it the Capitals or the Jets?
It's interesting. I think the Jets are putting together some ridiculous runs, right? They started the season 15-2-0, and now another 10-plus game winning streak. So I lean with the Jets there. But when you look at, and I'm talking about the President's Trophy, but when you get to the playoffs, I don't love the Jets' spot to win the Stanley Cup. As much as I like Connor Hellebuck and what they've built and the forward group is deep, like they're going to have to go through teams like Dallas, like Colorado, who beat them last year. And then, oh yeah, you're going to have to probably play Vegas or Edmonton if you get out of that Central Division bracket. Whereas in the East, I think that Washington has kind of low-key built this, like one of the strongest teams in the whole conference. And like when I see Carolina, I don't fully trust them. Florida's dealing with an injury to Matthew Tkachuk. I worry about that, how long he's going to be out. That still remains to be seen. Teams like Toronto, I don't fully trust them for obvious reasons. So Washington, when they came into the year, they picked up Jacob Chikrin, Logan Thompson, some of these other guys, Pierre-Luc Dubois. You thought they were kind of beefing up the roster to be more competitive for the great chase for Ovechkin, but really they've molded into one of the best teams in the entire league that I think could win 2 or 3 rounds in the Eastern Conference, crazy enough.
It is crazy, Pete. The odds still not expecting all that optimistic of a run through a Stanley Cup postseason for the 2 best records in the NHL. And of course, the President's Trophy is always a celebration of regular season success, but does kind of have that infamous curse behind it in terms of your Stanley Cup playoff success as well. Pete, let's talk individual trophy odds right now. The Calder Trophy, the rookie of the year basically in the National Hockey League. In the first overall pick, Macklin Celebrini for the San Jose Sharks, a minus 280 favorite to win that award. Pete, do you think this race is already sealed, or might Celebrini get some challengers down the home stretch of this season?
No, it's far from sealed. And a couple of weeks ago, it looked like, the Canadians were coming back down to earth. Maybe Hudson would fall back a little bit, still be a finalist, but Celebrini might run away with it. Now Lane Hudson is up to 40 assists on the season, which is insane for a rookie that's playing the minutes that he is and the responsibilities on both ends of the ice. And Montreal's dealing with some injuries around him. So impeccable season for him in the scope of his position. And then all of a sudden, coming out of the Four Nations pause, Matvei Michkov for Philly, he's got 8 points in 3 games. He's had a crazy shot volume. As of record time here, he is tied for the rookie lead in points with 44 is Michkov. And I know that Celebrini's played fewer games. This guy might be the next, hero in the league, the next two-way force like Sidney Crosby people are talking about, but not so fast for the Calder. This is a hot competition right now.
Matvei Michkov, Donnie's favorite NHL player for the Philadelphia Flyers. He might bet that 6-1 price right here, right now. We'll get you set for this Friday and the weekend ahead in the NHL with Pete next. We're back live right here on this Friday on the early line on SportsGrid. Pete Jensen of the NHL joins us for a second consecutive segment. 3-game slate in the NHL tonight with a big game tomorrow. The Stadium Series in 2025 continues around the National Hockey League, and we go to Columbus, Ohio, at the home of the national champs in FBS college football. That would be Ohio Stadium, the Horseshoe, as the Columbus Blue Jackets will host the Detroit Red Wings. A lot of rivalries between the state of Michigan and the state of Ohio, and maybe an attendance rivalry to keep an eye on as well. We expect more than 90,000 in attendance tomorrow at Ohio Stadium, the second largest crowd perhaps in NHL history. Pete, the record over a decade ago in 2014 at the Big House in Ann Arbor, more than 105,000. But should be a great game between the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Detroit Red Wings tomorrow. What do you expect for the atmosphere? What will it mean for the action on the ice?
Well, it sounds like there's going to be a very pro Blue Jackets crowd, and they deserve it. They've been one of the biggest stories. I know we were talking about the Capitals, but really the second biggest story to me is that Columbus is tied with Detroit for both the first and second wild card spots in the Eastern Conference. We all know what they've been through, what they've overcome, and what they're playing for with what happened to Johnny Gaudreau in the offseason. And these guys, this is an amazing young core. Zach Werenski's in the thick of the Norris Trophy race for top defenseman. He obviously led the Four Nations tournament in points with 6, all assists. And he has been just a horse for this team. And they have a great young core. Like I said, Adam Fantilli, like Zach Werenski, is a Michigan grad. So there's going to be a little extra motivation for those guys for sure in this game. I like hitting on those guys in the props market, point props, shot props. Fantilli has been a beast ever since Sean Monahan went down with an injury. He's the number 1 center. He's a speed demon. And he is making a big difference for Columbus during this playoff push.
Yeah, it's pretty fun atmosphere because it's always about the spectacle of the Stadium Series. You got a lot of people in different environments here. It's fun to see. And also pond hockey is basically how the players treat it, and it's a pretty good watch. 3 games on the card tonight here, Pete. Two of those very competitive, at least what we look forward to here. That's Toronto and New York. And then also we take a look at the Kings and also Dallas, 132s, 122s respectively there. Then we have one of those games that might get a little bit out of hand, a heavy favorite close to a 3-1 price, Minnesota and Colorado. Do you have any looks tonight on those three games tonight, Pete?
So Val Nichushkin is back for the Avalanche. Obviously, they don't have Mikko Rantanen anymore. They traded him to the Hurricanes, and that's another big name that's on the market at the trade deadline. Carolina could keep him. Carolina could flip him if he doesn't want to re-sign there. So that's the biggest storyline for me. But Nichushkin is back, had a high shot volume in his first game back, and I like his chances of scoring a goal potentially against the Minnesota Wild, who are decimated by injuries right now. Kirill Kaprizov is out. Joel Eriksson-Ek is out. They are, shorthanded right now, to say the least. The Dallas Stars, I like a wrinkle for them on their top line. Maverick Bourque has at least a point in 6 straight games played and 7 of 8. He's a rookie that's coming on strong. Again, this rookie class this year has been a little topsy-turvy, inconsistent, but now it seems like a bunch of these guys are starting to heat up for the stretch run of the season. The Rangers at home have lost a lot of tough games this year. They've been blown out a number of times, so I don't fully trust them in that spot, but a nice check of the box for them. They beat the Islanders pretty handily, and they are trailing by, I think, 4 points, Detroit and Columbus in the wild card race. So they have some work to do for sure.
Yeah, Pete, a home dog tonight inside the Garden against the Maple Leafs and a plus 108 price for the Rangers to see the postseason. Of course, so much expectation for New York entering this NHL year. When it's all said and done, Pete Jensen, final minute of this segment, tell us, will the Rangers make the postseason?
I mean, I think they should catch one of those two teams, either Columbus or Detroit. I trust Columbus a little bit more. They beat Detroit yesterday. They have been scoring goals all season. Columbus could be a buyer at the deadline, crazy enough, because they've been so competitive, and they do have some holes to fill because of some injuries, like I mentioned, to Michkov and also Sean Monahan. But Boone Jenner is another guy to keep an eye on for Columbus. I mean, he has a point prop, shot prop written all over him. And then to answer your question about the Rangers, I do think they eventually get in. I think they hop one of those two teams. I don't know if they're going anywhere in the playoffs, though.
Fair enough, Pete Jensen. Always fair enough. Thank you for your time. Hour number 3 up next.